Good night and welcome to Mindful Live 399. I am your host Nathan Springer. Thank you for being here. It is presently the 22nd of May in the year of our Lord 2024. May is the month of exams. Exams are going on and mathematics recently passed, and I hear, as is the case with nearly every year, CXC has again created bacchanal and difficulty. Like, at some point in time, we as Caribbean people have to take a moment to sit down and try and find out what is going on with the CXC business. Who are these CXC people? This Caribbean Examinations Council. Who are the counselors on this council? And how did they end up there? And are they making any sense? At some point in time, we have to ask ourselves these questions, because these people are unanswerable. They do what they want, and you just suck salt. And children have to face this daunting prospect year in, year out, not without even a slight glimmer of transparency in how they run things. Not even a slight glimmer of transparency. And now every year seems to be a leak. The rules aren't being enforced over the board, across the board in a fair manner. They look like the same people who print new textbook every year. And that's the thing about CXC being so opaque. Because CXC is so opaque, we have no idea how far the shafting goes. We have no idea what they're doing. Anyway, that's just on me. So once you are inside of the live, make sure you hit that like button, double tap the screen over there on TikTok. That's how you hit the like button. Hit that like button on YouTube also. Tap that like button, give it a good stiff tap. And drop a comment if you have something to say also. Tell me what you think about the live. As per usual, this has been brought to you by Mindful Education. If you're looking for a way, hey, this is some good stuff. What's some stuff we can do to support? Well, if you have somebody that needs teaching, hit us up. We offer learning pods for learning stages from preschool all the way up to CXC, and most CXC and CAPE subjects are offered in private tuition, one-on-one teaching if necessary. All right, let's jump into the news. What's making the news? Kidnapping. A doubles vendor was kidnapped, and now apparently a ransom has been demanded. Ransom demand for kidnapped doubles vendor. Head of the Police Specialized Support Division, ACP Wayne Meister, says a ransom demand has been made for kidnapped doubles vendor Nisha Hussain. Hussain was grabbed on May 18th by armed men and forced into a silver B15. The car was found abandoned several hours later in Maracas, St. Joseph. Speaking in the morning on May 21st on internet radio station Power 102 Digital, Meister said the family received the ransom demand and was negotiating with the kidnappers. The anti-kidnapping unit would have indicated there was a ransom, and some special negotiations are going on. So we are keeping our fingers crossed that those negotiations work out. Meister said he did not want to disclose the ransom amount, but did say the kidnappers were yet to provide proof of life at the time of the interview on the morning on May 21st. Part of the protocol is that they gave a proof of life during the negotiation, and we should have that sometime this morning. That's May 21st. That's yesterday. I am not involved, I don't know. The fact that the bandits could afford to just leave the B-15 abandoned, well planned. Well, you see, RL, we were having a discussion talking about some of this yesterday. And this is why car thefts and grand theft auto is such a big thing when you're looking at the statistics. Because nearly all of the other crimes are usually committed with stolen cars. The chances are the reason they could have left that B-15 just at the side of the road in Maracas, St. Joseph, is because it wasn't any one of theirs. They took it off of the real owner at some point in time previously, and they have no consideration for what happens to it. Alex for you too says, I don't think she's rich enough or influential enough to be rescued. I hope she is. So kidnappers can unalive and still demand a ransom? Well, yeah, they can. It has been done before. It's not an unusual thing. If they demand a ransom and they tell you the person is alive but they aren't, you aren't sure to know. And if they tell you, they aren't going to let you know either way. But the only way for you to get them back is to pay. It's a brutal thing. And no wonder that when kidnapping starts to rise, that's when you see a lot of the business people, Canada. They're over in Canada. They're not playing that game because one, it's a quick way to lose a couple million of dollars. And two, it's not a sure survival thing. I mean, one of the most known supermarket magnates in this country was murdered in a kidnapping. And her body was never found. Ever. And if I recall correctly, there was, I think, a payment of a ransom in that case. So, kidnapping is a very, very risky thing. So how you know she murdered? Alright, well, maybe she ran away, Ronnie. Ransom confusion over Anisha, but family denies ransom demand. There is confusion on whether a ransom demand has been made for the return of kidnapped victim Anisha Hossain. Hossain, 27, remained in captivity last night after being snatched from outside a Source Doubles outlet, which she and her husband Richie Singh operated in El Dorado on Saturday morning. Sources close to the investigation would not confirm if a ransom demand had been made, noting that the investigation was at a sensitive stage. Like, what is this? How the Newsday could have a statement from Meister telling us that a ransom was made, and the Express saying that nobody told them a ransom was made, the investigation is at a sensitive point. If the investigation is at a sensitive point, how is homie on internet radio out here talking about the investigation? Sources close to and last night a person named Richie Singh, presumed to be Hossain's husband, posted on Facebook that the report of a ransom demand was false. This is fake news, Singh wrote in response to a Newsday story posted on social media, which quoted ACP Wayne Meister as saying that a ransom had been made by the kidnappers. We know what he said. Sources told Express that the matter will be dealt with internally as the police hope to return Hossain to a family safely. The anti-kidnapping unit is pursuing several leads and has received information about her possible whereabouts in a forested area along the east-west corridor, sources said yesterday. Hossain's kidnapping was captured on CCTV footage. We know this. Now, the thing I'm wondering here is, usually, I am not a kidnapper. I have never been kidnapped. I have never negotiated with kidnappers. I am talking off of just reading knowledge, viewing knowledge. A common trope of kidnapping is that the kidnappers don't want all of the information about what's going on in negotiations to be made public. The kidnappers tell you if you call the police or if you tell the public, if you tell the press, your loved one is dead. I could wonder if a ransom was made and the intention is not for it to be public, as demanded by the demanders of said ransom. Because that whole chain of events is very curious to me. I don't understand how an ACP is going to randomly create and craft a total fabrication of a story inside his head about a ransom demand, and nothing of the like is true? Like, that seems hard to believe. Why? Why would he do that? What does he stand to gain by concocting such a story? I don't get it. Or is it otherwise? That yes, a ransom may have been demanded. The family is trying to maybe negotiate and keep this thing under wraps to get back their loved one. And the police went and set it out public. And he's trying now to, dial that back. I don't know. But that seems very strange to me. How does something like that even happen? And this is right along. Probably if I have a theme for the mindful life this year, it's going to be that crime drives poverty. That's my theme for the mindful life this year. And we're looking at Trinidad, and Trinidad and Tobago has a significant crime problem. And I think that crime is impoverishing our country. Beside the corruption of the police and the corruption of our politicians and all of them, crime is impoverishing us. Doubles, people can't even sell their doubles in peace apparently. Would that have a positive effect on their doubles business, do you think? Would this crime have a positive effect on their doubles business? Following that thread of crime of poverty being downstream crime, as it were, let's look over at another story. Gunmen forced 2-month halt on Brechin Castle solar project. Won't you look at that? For 20 years, nothing happened on the open lands between the Sir Solomon Hochoy Highway near Couva and the Point Lisas Industrial Estate on Trinidad's west coast. The sweeping expanse was one sugar cane plantations on the estates of Brechin Castle, Basta Hall and Exchange. That ended with the closure of the industry in 2003. And the fields became savannas and a sandpit. But in April 2023, the area came alive again after being selected as the ideal site for a solar farm. Project Lara was hailed as Trinidad and Tobago's first industrial-scale solar farm project, with 112 megawatts of solar generation to be added to the country's energy grid. The project was to be located on 2 sites, Brechin Castle in Couva and Orange Grove, Tacarigua. However, President of BPTT, David Campbell, confirmed to Express Business in January that the construction of the proposed solar farm at Orange Grove would not proceed as planned, as the cabinet had decided to use the land for another purpose. With this change, Energy Minister Stuart Young said that the government was assessing whether the site at Brechin Castle would be further expanded as part of this country's solar generation efforts. But now the Brechin Castle site has been hit with security concerns. The area was bulldozed and infrastructure was installed to provide a support system for transmitting high voltage electricity from the solar farm to power stations for distribution. Trouble on the lands, however, 2 months ago, gunmen entered the job site and threatened workers. The Express Business was told that the source of the threats came from the community of Pran's Gardens, a crime hotspot where in 2010 India-based SR Steel Caribbean Limited (ESCL) abandoned a $12 billion project after sustained resistance from the community. That community lost $12 billion of external investment from crime already. And now more internal investment, more external investment coming to their community. Seems like it's going to leave again. Alarmed by what had happened, the players involved pulled their personnel and heavy machinery off the site and begged for protection. Residents of Prance Gardens and Phoenix Park spoke with the Express Business openly about the work stoppage after the gunplay and said it was in the interest of the fence line communities, which are all low-income areas. At a site visit on Monday afternoon, the Express Business observed that work had resumed on at least 3 locations, with work crews seen fencing the perimeter under the watchful eye of armed police officers located at checkpoints on the project site. Residents said there were also nightly police patrols in the area, with some officers assigned extra duties to secure the site. Employers. Interviews with residents last week revealed that there was no resistance to the solar farm by those living in the nearby communities. But there was one condition: that jobs would be provided to residents in fence-line communities. A month ago, residents staged a protest near the main gates leading to the administrative offices overseeing the project. The residents claimed that despite going through the application and screening process, not one of them had been hired. Residents argued that it was unfair that a project of that magnitude was taking place in their backyard and no jobs were available. Trinidad and Tobago Regiment, what is their role? To be our military. Just check the stats again. TNT is now ranked the 6th most dangerous country in the world. Whoa. Whoa, indeed. But I like this. I understand the residents' plight. It feels cruel if someone is coming and investing billions of dollars into a community, into your area, and you don't get a cent of that. You aren't getting to even sniff it. But then you see that there's a history and a present of residents, some maybe a select few, a tiny minority of them, but some of them nonetheless, from the community, threatening and putting workers in danger on the project. Would it be a surprise then if you see that the contractors that work on the project blacklist everyone from that community? Like, people have to understand how these things work. Okay, I know it's not everyone in the community. I know it's not everyone in the community. But if I know people from this community have been threatening gunplay, and now I get police to protect me, I could say, well, I want just nobody from that community. Divorce myself totally. I don't even want to figure out if you are a gunman, if you are not a gunman, if you are a friend of a gunman, if you are a defender of a gunman. If you all were in the live last night, you'd understand that many times in some of those communities, there's a culture of affiliation with criminals. Someone in the live last night was defending criminals too, when we spoke about a family member defending their criminal family. There's a culture of affiliation sometimes in communities where criminality has fortified itself. And do I want to find out who is the affiliate and who is the innocent? Or would it be easier for me to just hire a crew from anywhere else in the country, bring them in, we already got the police guard, and forget about this community? So TTR don't treat with internal threats, just saying yes they do. There are joint patrols in Trinidad and Tobago. The problem is that our regiment does not have legal police power. So if regiment officers are out there on the streets on their own, what they can and should do legally is limited. And then if you put them armed with a gun out on the road, you could be lining them up for legal problems. Interagency task force, yes, they are joint patrols. But the problem is sending them out by themselves. That's not really within the realm of possibility, really and truly. I guess you would have to kind of deem it a national security level kind of threat. Now, here's the thing: maybe it is, and I've said this before. In some, if a criminal element wants to put themselves in a geographical location and fortify themselves in, well, then you should send in the regiment there. But I don't think there are any locations like that in Trinidad. There aren't any places in Trinidad where police cannot go and it's like you need a military raid to get in there. There aren't places like that. The most well-known notorious drug kingpins and gang bosses in Trinidad and Tobago regularly have police officers raiding their compounds, driving in their compounds. So crime has a cultural link. I 100% agree with that. Millionaire. 100%. Crime most definitely has a cultural link. And one of the cultural consequences of crime is poverty. That's one of the cultural consequences. So, okay, whoever in Pran's Gardens decided to pick up a gun, go down to the construction site, demand whatever they wanted from the people, great. Even if you did get it for the moment, maybe, all right. But now, no one wants to hire anyone from your community. If someone has to build a business in your community, they build it like a prison. Jailhouse walls with razor wire around it, and they're coming in and out without buying a thing, without knowing a person inside of your community, so your community gets no benefit. That's what the crime does. Which part of that cycle has to stop first? The crime. I keep saying that. I constantly say this. You cannot buy out the poverty, and by buying out the poverty, it would stop the crime. It's not going to happen. Let's look at that Pran's Gardens community. Okay, let's say you go into that community now and you give all of them a job. Everybody in the community gets a work. Chances are what's going to happen is you'll have money getting into the community. Good night, Prophet, brethren. Hey, long time, man, long time, real long. You'd have people with money coming into the community. All right, fine. What are the criminal elements in the community going to do when several members of the community that are already under distress because these criminals live there? What are the members of the community? What are the criminal members of the community going to do when more money enters? They're going to take it, as they always do. So you cannot buy out the poverty and then stop the crime. If you attempt to buy out the poverty, you will just be paying the crime. I say this nearly once every 2 weeks or so. Buying out the poverty is paying the crime. You have to stop the crime. You have to stop the crime first. And then with the crime under control or lowered, the poverty kind of sees about itself. Listen, Trinidad and Tobago, the nature of our economy and the market that we live in Trinidad and Tobago, with how money flows in our country, if there's no crime, I don't think you have much people to worry about as pertaining to poverty. Beside people who are literally disabled and have zero family and are destitute, Trinidad and Tobago has market to make money in nearly everything. Listen, you could go plant dasheen in your drain at the side of the road and go and sell that and make some money. Trinidad has that possibility. It is difficult, and what makes the situation seem impossible is the crime. Because that villager, they can't open a stall. If their stall starts to make money, they will be robbed. That villager, they can't open a garage, a mechanic garage, if they have mechanic skills, because no one is going to bring their car into your hotspot community to be fixed. It will be difficult for you to even open a makeup or nail salon or something like that. Who is sending their daughter into your hotspot community to get her nails done? millionaires saying that whoever is in opposition arms the bad boys and sends them on the project to disrupt the project. You know, I don't doubt that there is political meddling inside of these things. I don't doubt that. For example, one of the things that struck me as seeming something very suspicious is when they reopened Brian Lara Promenade under Brian Lara Cricket Academy, the stadium, under this new government. When they reopened it, all the toilets started overflowing and backing up because people were going into the toilets and throwing big stones and grapefruits and mashing it up and stuff like that. I am nearly certain there was a political angle to that. That some people thought that this was a way to make one political group look bad. There was another time on the boat when we recently got one of those ferries, inter-island ferries. Same toilet business again. Someone was going and clogging the toilets, sticking grapefruits and nonsense down the toilets to damage it. I think that has a political side to it. I don't doubt that. But I don't like the lack of agency that many times we give the criminal element in our country. That these bad boys, they aren't doing this because they are bad people. They're doing this because they are ignorant. They don't understand. And some wicked politician, rich wicked politician, is getting money and giving these little innocent black boys, and these innocent black boys are then going and perpetrating these acts. It's not really on the innocent black boys. It's on the politicians that, you know, are fueling this. And I don't like that. I don't like that narrative. I kind of... Because I don't put them as little innocent black boys. I put them as very intelligent boys. They understand what they're doing. They have agency. They choose to do what they're doing. Even if they are influenced by outside factors, they still make that choice. So the responsibility is on them. If you can allow an opposition member to put a gun in your hand and tell you go and threaten a work site, for what? So you from the community take money from an opposition political party to mash up your own community? I blame you. That seems like a fool's choice. Seems like a your fault kind of thing. Would our politicians go as far as murdering their own people to garner the support of those same people? Of course they would, Luke. What kind of question you asking here? I know you're asking that to get the answer that you're looking for. One of the top non-disease cause of human death is democide, where your government kills you. One of the leading ways. Governments are exceptionally skilled at this killing people business. Governments have been doing it for years. One of the, I was looking at some of the worst experiments and tragedies in history recently, and with the Japanese, what was it? Some number, something where they were doing a lot of tests on people, brutal biological tests, to see how they die, to see how they live, to see the extent of human ability to take those challenges. Horrible tests during World War II. And when the United States liberated the people, all the scientists and the general who was in charge were given pardon. They were not prosecuted because the United States wanted to find out what they found out. So basically, the government said, oh yes, you brutally murdered these people and tortured them. This has been going on for how long? Oh no, what a bad thing. But you know what? We won't do you anything. Give me the information you got, and you're free to go. Unit 731. Thank you, Mr. Perfect. Unit 731. Yeah. They wanted to find out what they found out. So they allowed them to go free. Give us your information. And tell me if that isn't tacitly approving of this. You're basically telling them, job well done, guys. Well done. But, you know, we're glad that we didn't do it in the United States. But, oh, well done on the information you got. Cutting edge science you did there, chaps. Well done. And by the way, you all saw recently that the news basically broke that the United States very well knew they were doing gain of function research out in China, in Wuhan, and that is almost surely what led to the COVID. Listen, these people owe us money. That's government for you. It's nearly funny. The government in the United States funded some nonsense that they made illegal in the United States. They cannot do this research in the United States because it's so dangerous, you know. It's such a horrible thing. We have banned this research. But let's do it in China. That's such a dirty thing. Like the idea being that if something escapes, only the Chinese people would be affected. Well, how did that all work out? Hey, Dr. Fauci, how did that all work out? So gain of function research out there and deaths across the world. That's government for you. So, of course, look, yes. Governments aren't above murdering their own people. Politics and politicians aren't above getting their own people murdered to get their own convenient ends, to get to their own convenient ends. That's not a new thing. A pretty old common thing. Let's see. What do we jump into here? Oh, let's look over at Tobago Police Unit. See what progress they're making on their police unit, if that seems to be coming to come. Good evening, Duncan. Chief Secretary, Special Police Units in Tobago from May 27th. Specialized units will be based in Tobago from May 27th, THA Chief Secretary Fali Augustine said, having met with Assistant Commissioner of Police Tobago Collis Hazel, along with representatives of the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force on May 20th. That conversation, he said, was about rolling out his strategy of bringing specialist police units from Trinidad to Tobago. Usually the strategy is whenever we see a surge, we bring a crew from Trinidad, hot up the place, and then they return. Now, he said, the time had come for those units to be based in Tobago. He said for that to happen, the THA must provide accommodation and transport. He said there were also plans for Defense Force members stationed at Camp Signal Hill to make patrols. And here's the thing, right? Like, I don't know the full... Did you watch Ian Allen's interview with Mammy? No, I did not. How did that go, Duncan? I think I'd have to take that in after this live. 90% of people aren't starving, Ariel. The reality is things economically aren't that difficult in Trinidad. The problem is crime. I almost always say that. The thing where we are legitimately under difficulty in Trinidad and Tobago, regardless of where you compare it in the world, is crime. We are legitimately horrible when it comes to crime. But when people talk about we eating grass and the salaries and the pay and the prices, Trinidad isn't the worst. We really aren't the worst. We aren't even close to the worst when it comes to those things. Like, if I could be... Do you consider that Ian source reliable? Of course not. Ian is not a reliable source. But if he does an interview, you could look at what the person says all on their own. It's almost as if she was in the car with her son, first-hand witness business. Well, then maybe Mommy needs to be investigated as an accomplice, because that sounds shady. But it's a long time now it's been known that Mr. Crime Watch is just watching along with crime. He has friends that would make it difficult for him to really do what he proclaims he's doing. So, you know, yeah, grand rising, two-ball, grand rising. Dane can makes you wonder. Next thing is really that. Next thing you see, she's the matriarch. She's the matriarch of the crew. Next thing you see that is she's the matriarch of the crew, and that's why. But yeah, back to Tobago. This is why I keep saying I'd like to see more decentralizing, more decentralization. And when we were speaking about a while back about the local government reform and all of that, getting more districts to function in nearly like the Tobagonian model, wouldn't it be a positive thing if the local politicians have a part to play or have moves to make in crime fighting? As it stands in Trinidad and Tobago, if you're in Central, the crime fighting in Central is run by, okay, yes, the Central Division, but they're headed by the same main police, and all the instructions come as one main police unit. But wouldn't it be good if there was some division, some localization? Because what you tend to see is localized people have more vested interests. They are more concerned about how things look on the day-to-day because they are localized. They are locals. I think that would be interesting. In the past, you went on, we used to benefit from community comfort patrol. The challenge is that they weren't necessarily precepted. They did not carry arms with them, and so their own safety became a challenge. And so utilizing the Defense Force to do the patrols around the island, means that we are coming with some force behind that. He said the reason for the patrols is to create a greater sense of confidence, as crime fighting must happen on several fronts: apprehending and solving, prevention, and creating confidence in the population. He said action would take place almost immediately where that is concerned. He had a message of hope for Tobagonians, saying the Tobago that he knows is a very resilient community, an island community that can pass through hell and come away with a slice of heaven, an island community that understands how to make the best use of whatever little resources is available. This is the island that at one time appreciated our spirituality and understood that we must remain close to God if we are to remain safe and successful. In fact, at one time it was joked about that the most traffic in Tobago occurred on a Sunday morning when people were just trying to go to church. A lot of that has changed. Progress and modernity has caused families and individuals to move away from some of our moral foundations. And perhaps this is a time for recentering and refocusing and reshuffling of hearts, reshuffling of minds, and reshuffling of morals. He said perhaps this is a time for some introspection, for each of us to sit and look inward and ask ourselves, what can I do to help save my island, and how can I do it better? Oh, Trini Hotep, where your friend? I've been waiting. I was ready to have that discussion. But Duke Farley selling dreams. Why is she not on that though? Is she willing to discuss there but not actually willing to put gravitas behind it? Duke Farley selling dreams, THA police force will not work. Progressive Democratic Patriots leader Watson Duke says he is not in support of the formation of a Tobago House of Assembly police force. In fact, he says if it is established, he will not be calling the officers there for any assistance. At a media conference yesterday, Duke strongly denounced the Chief Secretary proposal to create a THA police force, calling it a retarded look. Oh my goodness. Duke said the Tobago police force is a retarded look that will only exacerbate existing problems. Duke said Tobago leaders must address the island's security concerns rather than engaging in political gamesmanship and pappy show. Last week, Augustine announced measures to reduce crime. However, Duke yesterday accused Augustine of selling Tobagonian dreams. He said their actions doesn't reflect catering to the need, but instead it focuses on giving a good headline. Therefore, I am calling upon the leadership of Tobago and the central government to do better. Crime is a leadership problem. Stop blaming the police for everything. We have some of the best servicemen and women in their country working very hard under poor conditions to get the job done. He added Tobago will soon become like Trinidad if this is not stopped. We are asking our leaders to stop playing cat and mouse games as to whose responsibility it is, and let's fix the problem. Avoid creating Tobago police under you. It will not work. Don't do it. I could speak to them in this manner knowing that I brought them into office. Duke said he would not reach out to the THA police if he's in trouble. I would be very careful not to call any ad hoc group Tobago police because they gave policing a retarded look, he said. Duke argued that the Assembly lacked the legislative power to create a police unit or anything resembling a law enforcement authority. He called on the THA to collaborate with central government to address Tobago's security concerns through a comprehensive and coordinated approach. Correct, Mr. Perfect. Do you think the renewal of the commissioner is relevant? Of course it's relevant. I think the commissioner plays an important role. And I do think it's relevant. I don't think I agree with her renewal. Even beside her performance and the crime as it stands in the country, I just don't think it's a good idea to extend someone's retirement to leave them at the top of a job. Like, I find that demotivating to younger members of the service, that you're telling them you're willing to drag somebody out from old age retirement to be the top of this field instead of choose someone that is actively in the field. Like, to me, if the retirement age is 60, then it makes sense getting a commissioner under 60. Like, ask yourself this. Why is there a retirement age? Why do we require that they retire? Why is that even a requirement? Is there a reason for it? If the reason is that you think as people age, they may become less proficient at this job. Yes, Tubal, but we have to understand words and meanings. Always. We have to always be cognizant of words and meanings. When you say it is political, that is self-apparent. Political means affairs of the polity. The polity are the people, the public, the general public. So of course it's political. Whether it's corrupt, whether it's dealing with political influence or not, it is by nature political, because it's a political job. I would be frustrated if I am an officer and all the senior officers, you're dragging people out of retirement to do that. That doesn't make sense to me. I think between the age of whenever you start the police force and 60 is enough time for you to learn all you need to learn and reach to the point of excellence to reach the commissioner's job. And then by the time you reach 60, you retire and you leave. I don't like and this is beside her performance. This is beside her performance, because on the performance side, I am not certain who would do better. It's not like I have a candidate in my mind that I could say that person is for sure going to do better. In my personal, very subjective opinion, I preferred the running style of Gary. I know many people don't. And I'm not talking about his affinity to talking regularly. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about his outlook. Like, this is a job where I have to interact with my customers, who are the people of this country, and we are in a constant communication with each other. I am constantly trying to keep them abreast of what I'm doing. Now, you could say it's Papi Show and Mama Guy, and he was a PR commissioner. You could say that. But to me, that is part of the job. Seeing reports that Anisha's host sign was found on the side of the road in Kearney. Right before I started the live, I think I saw someone was arrested. Someone who was suspected of being one of the kidnappers was arrested. It is beneficial for a party. I agree to all. Isn't experience part of the requirement structure into the position? Yes, but I don't think experience is supposed to be needed so much that you need them so experienced they're retired. Like, can't you find someone? All right, the contract for commissioner is what, a 3-year stint? Can't you find someone early 40s? Let's say someone at, not early 40s, early 50s. Someone at 54. You hire them at 54. They get 2 3-year contract stints. They reach 60 and they retire. And then you look for someone else in their early 50s. And you keep doing that. Like, I just don't get it. Well, I say I don't get it, but I think I actually do get some of it.
Oh, what you seeing, man?
What's the scene?
Don't want to come out, the people don't want to come out, man. That's crazy.
I'm busy here, so I can't be typing in the chat. What going on?
Nah, but later, it's funny, you know. How one can talk about the government supposed to be involved in this and that, and then come back to spin wrong back and talk about how the government's supposed to be doing it. That's crazy.
Very.
It's all this part of a few hours, still have a whole day. A few hours. I find that's crazy. You understand? I say, I let Nick in the chat. She don't want to come. That's just the fact. That's the fact. She don't want to show up. I
have to
return on investment and all kind of thing. I talk is crazy.
All right, yeah, I just went to read that chat there to see what it was. The same water that floats the boat can sink the boat. Yeah, you know, I find things like that despicable. Where, you know, someone would come abrasively and as an opponent, I am going to fight this. And when you say, okay, well, let's actually discuss this. Let's make a lot of rabble noise on the fringes. Something that can actually have a pertinent outcome. Nah, let's not do that. We just wanted to remain murky and unsure on the fringes. And people like that are the people to stay far from. Anyone who does not want to solidify their point, who does not want to make the point that they're making clear, they always want to be kind of dark and obscure behind a corner somewhere. No. Come into the light and make the point clearly. That's what we need, much more of that. And it's funny, the person speaking about, there's no return on interest in those things. There's no benefit to that. So why were you even discussing it first?
What's funny is that she can make a TikTok video with no return investment, same speed.
Yeah.
Same speed.
Like, what are you talking about? Seeing unconfirmed news reports that they released her to the police. Well, I might have to I might have to go on her profile and wait for that TikTok video and make a stitch to it, because that's the only way it might happen. I don't like those things, man. That's cowardice. If you have something to see that's something. All right. I see someone saying the lady might be released there. That's great. I'm happy to hear that. Someone was saying earlier in the chat they don't think she's connected or wealthy enough to be rescued. Well, we see that she's released, apparently, reportedly. I don't know. I haven't read that. That's what the chat is saying. So that would be great if true. Anyway, people, closing in on 11, and I think we're making an earlier exit tonight. I was really waiting for that discussion in a Trini Hotel. We'd have to talk about that in the chat there. All right, people, are there any further questions or comments before I dive out?
I feel tomorrow.
Of course, tomorrow is discussion.
If laws are supposed to meant to be followed right, tomorrow for that. You
see, the discussion isn't even about breaking laws. It's about whether the laws are a positive thing and whether the enforcement of the laws is to enact a lawful nature in society. Mad people behavior. Yeah, you do, Nick. Yeah, you do. It helps the message get across better. That's just the reality. Even if cussing is how you express yourself, to get the message out to a wider base of people, you tend to need to make it more palatable to a wider base of people. For one, many people with children, even if somebody is a cuss but themselves, if they're listening to something and they have their child next to them, they don't usually want to hear their child listening to cusses resounding every 2 words. So there's that. Anything with cussing, you already throw yourself out of the family running. So someone can't listen to you with their family there. There's just an idea. So, like if you're cussing and your aim is to aim exclusively at single adults, well, that's your content and that's your aim. But if your aim is geared at content that family-oriented people will like, but it's delivered in a manner that they cannot palate, it's not going to reach them. All right, people, that's all I have for now. I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained. I am Nathan Springer. This has been the Mindful Live. I'll see you guys again for the next Mindful Live, which is going to be tomorrow night around that 9:30 p.m. time. And what we do on a Thursday is we talk. Thursday talks, we come, there aren't any news stories really. We're just discussing whatever questions jump in. If you want to join, just as Trini Hotep did right on the side there, that's what you can do tomorrow, and we can all have a ball at it discussing. How am I just noticing the beautiful art in the background? Which beautiful art? There are a few pieces. Thank you. All right, I'll see you guys for the next one. Peace out, people. Stay safe, stay well, stay inside, outside this sketch.